This was originally the Boland Farm, which was called Claverach Farm. And in 1923, the family was involved in subdividing it, and the original name, though, was the Morelands. And in the original subdivision, the original house, which was a late 19th century farmhouse, was left in place in what is now the circle on Crestwood Drive. And in 1931, they re-subdivided it and decided to tear down the original house and build smaller houses on that circle. At the same time, they changed the names of most of the streets. But in the meantime, on the other side of the street, in what's now Richmond Heights, another subdivision had been laid out which used those same street names. So now the old street names are on the south side of Clayton Road, and the new names are on the north side. So when you're doing history in this neighborhood, you have to realize that most of the houses had two different street names. But the Boland family was one of the many families that descended from John Melanphy, who was St. Louis's first millionaire. This neighborhood has an unusually large amount of public open space running down through the center of it, which was partly because of drainage originally, but it creates a very spacious look for many of the streets here. Another feature that I always try to point out to people is that there are many odd-shaped intersections here, but the architects who built the houses tried to get the house to face both of the streets. So often those corner houses are kind of Y-shaped with embracing arms, or they have two fronts so that they look good from both directions. And that's a sign of really good design. This has a typical range of mainly period revival houses. There's only a handful of houses that would have been considered modern in their day. But the Tudor and colonial revival, and there's several Spanish houses. They were all very popular styles of that era. And these houses also are noted for fine craftsmanship. The quality of the masonry in the brick houses, detailing of the Spanish houses with cast iron and wrought iron detailing. Many houses have leaded windows and stained glass and other fine features that make the neighborhood very desirable. The biggest lots are the lots facing Wydown, where you didn't have an entrance gate like you have here on the Clayton roadside, which was really the only road that had any traffic in those days. On Wydown, these very spacious lots and huge houses are designed to impress the people in Brentmore Park and Carswald across the street. This gateway is a typical tradition for St. Louis. The tradition of monumental gateways for private subdivisions started with Portland Place and Westmoreland Place in the central West End. So this was a very impressive one, and one of the most ambitious in terms of all the arches and stonework, which I think was a signal to people who wanted to buy lots here that they were moving into an exclusive subdivision. The Morelands addition, people always say, an addition to what? And it was originally an addition to the Morelands subdivision, which is now called Claverach. Almost every house is custom designed. One of the public schools of Clayton was right in the middle of that neighborhood, the Glenridge School, designed by William B. Ittner, who was one of our great architects of St. Louis. The land that was west of Glenridge was harder to sell because it was sloping downhill, and people thought that it would be more in the shade and you wouldn't get the suburban breezes that they were always looking for. And they decided to allow multi-family buildings to be built there. Well, the people who had built the single-family houses did not like that, and they took the developers to court. And the judge devised a compromise that if they would build two family units along the west side of Glenridge, that would kind of screen the lower area that had the apartment buildings in it. So as a result, we have these two-family houses on the west side of Glenridge that are unique in the St. Louis area. And the one that I'm standing in front of now is a good example because it shows that there are two front doors. One has a Glenridge address and the other has the address of the cross street. And they were very cunningly designed by the architects so that they would look like one big house. And even today, many people don't realize that this is what realtors used to call a two-family flat. There's only one unit on the ground floor and then one unit on the upper floor. So both of those units are as large as most people's houses or larger. This particular one was designed by Marcel Boulicot, who had specialized in high-style single-family houses. So this was unique in his practice also. In the 1930s, when there was no market for expensive houses, he changed his career and became an expert in mental institutions and built most of the mental hospitals in Missouri.